Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Brian O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Welcome to the podcast. I am your host, Brian O'Rourke. Thanks for joining me today. And I hope you're keeping cool if you're in the Northern Hemisphere as we are in the midst of summer. I had a chance to be at Idea World here this week in Los Angeles. And first off, before I get started with the panel conversation you'll hear on this pod, I want to recognize Amy for all that she's doing with Idea. Amy, I've known her for a very long time. She's super smart, super classy, very thoughtful leader who's doing a lot of great things. And, I just have a great deal of respect for her and the Idea team. So it was really great to be there and see everybody and to participate in the event with this panel. So congrats to Idea and Amy for putting on a great show. The panel that's on this pod that I recorded is titled The Download on Digital. And it includes Eric Posner, Jeffrey Scott, Mike Hansen, Garrett Marshall, and Deborah Ebel, who was fantastic. And what we did is create a basic framing around the industry space. You'll be able to find the slides for the deck on the intro that I went through on a link that we'll put in the show notes. And you can find it on LinkedIn. I'll be sharing it as well. But we addressed a few questions that you'll be able to listen to. The number one question was, how has the rise of digital changed the way gym operators approach retention? What strategies have you seen work best in blending digital offerings with in-person experiences? In what way has social media influenced client expectations and marketing strategies? We go into wearables and fitness apps, those opportunities and challenges. We talk about VR. We talk about content creation. How has the proliferation of online content affected perceived value of fitness instruction by professionals, for example, and accountability. Jeffrey Scott goes into how digital has improved or hindered client accountability and adherence. And finally, we talk about AI. And then there's some Q&A with the group. So I hope you find this conversation interesting. It certainly was a great event. And so without further ado, let's jump on into the panel. Talk about wearables and apps. So Garrett and my friend, Mr. Jeffrey, let's talk about how are wearable technologies and fitness apps reshaping the role of group fitness instructors and personal trainers? And then secondly, what opportunities and challenges does this tech present for creating more personalized and better experiences? You want to start, Garrett?
Sure. Well, certainly I think digital tools like wearables and digital apps are not a new thing. We're all familiar with that. We know, we even saw in some of the slides earlier that consumers are using a litany of different tools for their fitness needs. But I think in the next probably 5 years, we're going to see the biggest change is on the output side, or we in this room might call it like application or the prescription side of what those technologies are capable of. And that's going to be largely a result of AI. And it's happening right now, breakthroughs in AI that are creating new levels of personalization and efficacy in wellness products and services specifically. And so like if you think about the wearable for the last 5 to 10 years, I think the statistic is something like there's 1 in 3 Americans owns a wearable device, but it's been primarily a data capture device, right? That is what AI is going to change. And so as all of this is kind of bubbling up underneath the surface, I think the result we're going to see is that the consumer's expectation when they make decisions on the products and services that they're going to buy to optimize their health is going to change pretty dramatically, because we are going through a real architecture shift from an information era to now an intelligence era. And like any other shift in the past, There is a window of opportunity, whether it's the industrial age to PC, or PC to .com, etc. There's a window of time where companies will either thrive and or fail, depending on how they adapt to that. So to step back, I think at the macro level, the opportunity is really positive for all of us, because we're going to have this incredible technology that helps us get more people healthy and get people healthy more efficiently. I think the challenge, though, is that as technology advances, the tools that we're talking about today, whether those are apps or those are wearable devices, they're going to transcend from just mere tools to more to coming into what we might consider to be like the programming space and the prescription side of the equation. And that's simply a byproduct of compute power and the vast amounts of data that are out there. So I think for real, like concrete or practical examples of opportunities and challenges, I think there's a real opportunity right now for fitness professionals to expand the scope of what they offer. So if you think about wearable devices, probably most people in this room have one on, or these various digital apps that are used as a utility. They typically serve very large and generalized audiences, and so by very definition, they're generalist in nature. It's very fragmented, but sadly, I think technology over time is going to change that as well. But right now, as a fitness professionals are kind of the one source, or the hub in the middle, or the one potential source of truth, where a member or a client can bring all those disparate data sets and have somebody interpret those and analyze them and give them guidance, right? There's not a lot of great digital tools or technology that can do that today. While we're on that subject, I think templated plans and templated programs are not going to survive well. As technology enables this level of personalization, and you can get it for basically free at the tap of a button. Like literally, you mentioned ChatGPT. Go into ChatGPT, tell it what your goals are, what amount of time you have, what equipment you have, and see what comes out. It's already there, right? And that's going to get way better, right? And technology doesn't have the same constraints that we have as human beings, right? Because as a wearable device, I can be with you, reading you, sensing you 24 hours a day. I can run computations and calculations at virtually no cost. We can't do that as humans, right? So I think the opportunity is really to broaden that scope of service. On the flip side of that coin, I mean, we as fitness professionals and fitness businesses can benefit from all the same technology, right? So I think it's wise right now to be very proactive about that and get familiar with the tools that are most popular among consumers. At the business level, I think it's your responsibility as a business to start to think about how you actually build this way of working with customers into your actual SOPs, like into your business. I think you've got to start thinking about systematizing work. Because if you're working in a very sort of point-to-point or manual way with customers, it's just not going to be competitive in the near future. Like if you're a gym that has an introductory 1-hour PT consult and you have a 40% show rate for that today, you're probably going to have a 10% show rate in the future if that's your onboarding process. So you got to think proactively about how to really systemize these processes in your business at scale.
Thanks, Garrett. What do you have to add, Jeffrey?
Just a quick add, because that was brilliant. Yeah. How it interacts with group fitness and personal training from my perspective, as a group fitness instructor from the early 90s, you tell people what to get your step, get your weights, get your this, get your that, and now everyone says, and start your device. Yeah. Like that was never part of the conversation, even 6-7 years ago. Yeah. But everybody wants to be told to do that because if you have a device, you know this to be true. There's nothing worse than finishing a workout and realizing you didn't start it on your freaking watch.
True, right? Yeah, it's true.
And you get credit for it. Like it can ruin your day. So at least that's from my perspective. So people want credit for every step, every jumping jack, every burpee. It's important for us to reinforce that because people are now being accountable for what they're doing. As a personal trainer, I can tell that if someone is actually working as hard as they say they are, because I can actually look at their data in real time. So this is all, but I will say one thing. There is a fine line. I have a whoop. I had a whoop. I had to break up with it. We are on a divorce right now because it gave me a lot of info, and it would dictate what kind of day I was going to have. If it told me I could do a lot of strain that day, I would be like, but I wasn't feeling good. I'm like, but you're telling me I can, but I don't feel good. And there were days where it says you need to rest, and I'm like, but I feel great. So we butted heads a little bit, but it's important for us to know what's out there, what is available. I still love that device. I just need to take a break from it for a little bit. But I had the watch, I had that whoop, I had the Oura ring, I have all the. Literally, I was in it. I was just loving learning more and more about it. It's good to learn about it, but just know when enough is enough.
Good. I hope people are writing down questions. We're going to move through this a little quicker because we're not going to have any time left for questions. So we have 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'll do 4. Let's try to keep it to 6 minutes so we can have some time for people to ask. So virtual reality, Garrett. Metaverse was everything just a few years ago, and now no one's really talking about it much anymore, right? Tell us, what is the impact that you see on the industry, and do you see it, and how do you see it evolving in the next 5 years? And secondly, will everyone be going to the gym with headsets on? Or how can smaller gyms or independent trainers incorporate VR without breaking the bank?
Okay, I'll be super succinct because
Yeah.
I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball answer to this.
We like that.
I a couple years ago embarked on a partnership with Meta to create a VR app to launch with their latest hardware, which was the Quest 3. Learned a lot along the way. Fitness is an emerging category in VR. In fact, at the time, this is 2 years ago, so there are more now, there were 130 million headsets in the market. And that was just Quest. There are other, obviously, hardware options out there. Fitness was their number 2 app category in the marketplace, second only to gaming. What motivated me to do that deal was that it felt to me like a completely unreached audience, a relatively large addressable audience that looked nothing like the members we serviced for the business that I worked for at the time, Exponential Fitness. Yeah. And there are only a handful of fitness apps available. Most of them are really whiz-bang, like you're swinging through the rainforest on trees and hitting glowing orbs and stuff like that. And so we said, well, we can be a little fish in a big pond, kind of, and we're going to do true fitness with VR. To answer the question directly, honestly, I wouldn't lose a lot of sleep over this right now.
Yeah.
I think it's very early,
yeah.
And there's still a lot of challenges. Pricing models are a challenge. The hardware, as Bryan pointed out, if you're talking about consumer VR, is still not really optimized for the mainstream. It's made a lot of improvements, but you sweated it and stuff. And so if you're thinking about a club setting, you could do some superficial things like maybe, some special events. It is a lot of fun. It's a captivating experience, or maybe challenges. But again, I wouldn't, I'd avoid getting out over your skis right now with VR. There's no question, with all that being said, that it's a technology that's mainstream and is here to stay. There are things, just like we use leaderboards today and heart rate training in cycling classes and so forth, and consumers expect those. Like you pointed out, logging your workouts has become an expectation, and you can't do that stuff without the technology. The same will be true for VR. I think it's more of a matter of timing.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't put too much credence into that technology right now. So, Deb, you're an expert on creating content. So tell us a little bit about the proliferation of online fitness content and what you think the impact has been to perceived value of professional instruction. And then how can professionals create content as more effective for digital participants? You went into some of this a few minutes ago. So go into it some more, please.
Again, you were saying about I think you said about meet your audience where they are. And that's challenging. It's because you have to decide. I don't think there's any one platform that has everybody on it. So you can do more than one platform. You could point everyone to a different place. But I think the biggest part of it is making it personal. Digital is awesome. I mean, obviously we're all in it, and I love it so much. But I think people are still looking for a personal connection with it. It's like what I was saying before, speak directly to them, not as if you don't know them. I do see a lot of that. But like Jeffrey was saying about your stuff's out there 24/7. So that's why I'm able to have people in other countries and people, on other sides of the earth. In addition to my Honduran pack, I also have a bunch of women in Pakistan who take my class. But that is something that women can do in countries where they're not even allowed to go outside. They can turn their phone on. So you have to find your audience, but you need to. I think I saw Jeff McMullen come in this room. Is he sitting in the back?
He may have left.
Oh, he's left. Well, this is what I tell a lot of instructors. This is going to sound crazy, but if you want to teach digitally and you really want to connect with people, you might be the most amazing fitness professional out there, but when you turn a camera on and you've got lights and you're alone in a room really talking to a person you don't know, an acting class is key, because you have to speak to the camera as if and pretend that you're talking to this one person. So I will tell people things like, if you know all the potential things that go wrong on a squat, then you need to make those corrections, especially if you're putting out a product that's just sort of out there and it's not interactive, then make the corrections of things you would see out in person, which is not an easy thing to do. So you have to act like a fitness instructor or trainer when you're just on your own little soundstage. But that is what they're gonna make people. That's all these different people have said, oh, tune into this, tune into that, and that's how I've been able to build all these different communities. And so when I'm on with them, I acknowledge that they're all on with me, and I talk to them individually, and I've sort of virtually introduced people to each other. So I think that is a really good way to build it, but it's not easy because you are alone when you're doing it and you can't see them. I feel like I didn't answer that.
Can I add that real quick?
Yeah.
But like one thing that just might help someone in this room is that we're talking about providing value, right? So you want to provide value, therefore you feel they'll feel compelled to be okay with giving money up to view that. Cueing to that camera,
Yes.
like you were cueing to a person who couldn't see you, is critical.
Yes.
Content, the value in content is in the instruction.
Yes.
The value in the instruction is information. And information is just being you might think you're over cueing, you're not.
Never.
Cue, set them up for success, ground up, where's their body weight, where are their knees, where are their hips, you know this, but just continually provide them with instruction, and that's what brings value to your content.
I'm gonna add on, there's Jeff in the back hiding, Jeff McMullen, and he knows I've told him this a million times, he teaches on my platform. So the cueing thing, what do I always say? Talk about what you see and what you feel, because you can't really see your person. So you tell them, and don't say, I'm feeling this, or I'm feeling, say, you should be feeling. So let them know what they should be feeling. And when I say talk about what you see, talk about what you know you'd see in an in-person session or an in-person class. What would you see when you teach a lunge? You would see knees and toes getting out of line. So you have to cue as if you're seeing that. So that is really what will separate your content from someone who's just up there training, like to film it. The person who's viewing it shouldn't feel like a spectator. They should feel like a participant. And that is, it's hard. It's easier said than done.
Yes. Mike, you want to add something?
I'll say one thing about it. So I've done content for probably 75 brands now. There's a very different way you do content if you're doing a brand extension or using content to connect with somebody. And I think you got to make that decision right up front, because I've seen subscription content where you're making your classes, and I've seen programs. And I will tell you, programs, if you're connecting with somebody for the first time, actually outperform subscriptions. And so you've got to make that strategic decision first and foremost. Otherwise, just because you're making content, and even no matter how well you make the content, if you're engaging with somebody for the first time, very different than brand extensions.
That's a great observation.
Yeah, that's true.
Very good observation. All right, let's move on to another question so we can get to your Q&A here, hopefully in the next 10, 15 minutes, so we can hear what you want to know about. So, Jeffrey, in what ways has digital improved or hindered client accountability and adherence? And how can pros strike a balance between leveraging tech for accountability and maintaining personal connection with clients?
I'll keep this concise because I feel like I've been talking a lot. But
Great.
I will say, what I do for a living is we create fitness content, and then I also run the results team, which we do test groups to validate that the programs that we create actually work. So one of the most important things that we do when taking people through a test group is create a Facebook group or whatever platform we're using for accountability. And accountability, by far, and research proves this, when someone knows that someone's counting on them, they are going to show up and they are going to do it. Left to their own device and they're tired and the 8,000 excuses that roll through your head, you may not show up. But if I know that Deb is there and she's waiting for me to show up, she's going to show up. She may not give it 100%, but she's going to do her best then and there. So accountability is profound. And with the company that I work for, we have an arm of it, which is an MLM, multi-level marketing, and they were called coaches, now they're called partners. But the partners create these groups, and when they're trying to sell Shakeology in our programs, the accountability groups are the way that they actually get people to sign up and stick with the program and get the results that they want. So I will keep it short, but accountability is a no-brainer. It is vital to the success, especially as we get older. We have more reasons to not do it. So an accountability group, whether it be a Facebook group or just accountability for personal training, if I'm not with them directly, if I'm doing a visual, I make sure that I have a standing date for them. Every Monday at 4 o'clock, we're meeting, and every day at 4 o'clock, I'm expecting to see your readings from your watch for every single workout that you did so that we can discuss how you did, what worked, what didn't, and I can course correct as we move forward to make sure that you're optimizing your time training and we're gonna get you the results that you want. So accountability, by far, is critical.
That's great, great. Let's go on to number 7. Mike. So we're gonna talk a little bit about AI. And so how everyone's talking about AI. Went from the metaverse to AI. There we go. How do you see AI reshaping the role of the personal trainer, the group fitness instructor, and gym managers even in the near future? And then secondly, what skills should Fit Pros be developing now to stay relevant and competitive in this AI-enhanced industry?
So this is a session in itself, right?
Yeah.
So AI has been around since 1956.
Right.
I'm just going to put that out there.
Right.
We are in a world where we are doubling compute,
Right.
doubling data, right? Investment's obviously huge, and it's about 99.5% more cost-effective than it was 5 years ago. So wherever you believe it is in the cycle, I'm saying where I think it's at in the cycle. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I get that there's going to be little bursts, right? But what ChatGPT has done for our acceptance as a normal consumer of understanding and making something easier, no different than what GLP-1 is doing with weight loss, right? There's certain things that create these paradigm shifts in consumers. And when consumer behavior starts to adapt and change, there's nothing you can do as a business, right? It's called a paradigm shift. And so there's two types of businesses going forward. There's those that fully utilize AI, and then there's those that are out of business, right? I don't think AI is necessarily going to do a fully that, but I love the statement that AI won't replace you, but the person sitting next to you using AI will, right? There's tons of things that we can talk about here, and I'll give a little bit more context and we'll open it up because I know we're tight on time. But obviously, you can utilize AI in the back end side of operations in your business. I think it's roughly 30 to 40% efficiency that most businesses should realize utilizing AI. And I've had companies and gym chains and other people come and say, how should we use it? And what I said to them is I said, give to all of your staff members the objectives to go and figure out how to use AI in about 30 to 40% of their tasks. What that does is that creates a culture of them discovering how to use it, not to feel like they're being put out of business, but to feel out how they can accelerate what they do. And then from there, you can obviously then figure out how I might move that into my product or how I use that within the consumer side. There's tons of hacks, right? I actually gave this question to AI, and it gave me all of this about how you guys could do it. So I printed it out if you want to see. And I'm not going to go through it, but obviously I did really good prompt engineering, so I got a lot of words. But obviously there's tons of areas that you can use this in, and I think I would love to more or less say open it up to questions
Yes.
about how it could be utilized. Otherwise, I could be talking for a long, long time.
Yeah. That's
as long as everybody else up here. So I'll save some time.
That's great, because I think that's going to be on people's minds, and I think that's the right way to go. Well, good. So that gives us some time, which I know that we were going to try to create enough time for your questions where we can have these experts really give you more context to the subject matter, because it is so broad, as we said in the beginning. So we have about 40 minutes or so, give or take, to really dive into this. So who wants to be first? Now don't be shy, I carved out all this time there. There you go. What's your name?
Shelley Russell.
Hey, Shelley.
Hey.
Please.
I'm enjoying this. This is perfect for me.
Good.
I'm a geek, digital geek. And so the way I do my little business is I sell my link to my video on demand or live. And if they join me live, they join in with their Apple Watch, and their heart rate wherever they are is displayed in my video, which is very cool. So I train them via their heart rate, which is something I've been doing forever, 28 years. So I can tell from their heart if something's up. You know, and I'll get texts after class saying, "Sorry, Shelley, I went out drinking last night," or what, you know, whatever happened. Or I'll know my pregnant student. I can tell her, "Okay, you're going too high. Let's bring it down a bit." Have you had experience with that? And do you think there's something to this in the future? Their faces are not synced, just their hearts.
Who wants to take that question first?
I have not even considered that. I do ask my students to, I say go to your activity tracker, whatever your wearable thing is, and we do discuss heart rate. But I've not had everyone, so you can actually see everybody's heart rate?
Yes, wherever
Oh.
they are, as long as they tune in right at the same.
That's
I give them a
fancy.
class code.
I think this is a great example of personalization using technologies. That's what this is. And I think it articulates a number of things the panel have kind of alluded to, both on the present term of what tools are available, but what's coming in the depth of personalized experience. It's not really mainstream yet. Any further thoughts on this?
I worked on a platform for this specific use case that you're talking about, and we're adding movement to it with heart rate, actually with the objective to allow people to have their customized score, right? So you have more of the gamification side of the equation within that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's very innovative. I would just add, I think that, like, if you're a lot of times in the industry, we evaluate the success of a program by, like, if somebody says, like, that was really an ass kicker, or I really sweated, right? That stuff's going to go away. You know, as I talked about when we discussed digital tools, they'll become so efficient at understanding and computing your information. They'll tell you exactly what to do precisely. So for all of us, if you're a fitness professional or you're a business owner, things like metabolic coaching, they have to be present in almost every group fitness class, because there's no more efficient, for most health outcomes that is, there's no better way to do it, right? It's not good enough to go, how many calories did you burn? That's not personalization, right? That's a very rough metric of success. So I think it's very, very innovative on a number of fronts.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see that as an example of more to come, where inputs are being given, and then what experience you deliver as a result of those inputs with the help of technology, doing things that only super high-end athletes who had access to a lot of stuff the common person doesn't. And it's going to encompass a lot of different things. With Ozempic, for example, just muscle mass is a big dynamic right now, where people have to train around that and hope you're not getting skinny fat, you know, where you're losing too much muscle mass as you're using the drug. So the ability to track, you know, your muscle mass becomes critical. And there are insights, as you know, as experts in the industry, where you correlate the modalities that you train in, what you're consuming, how your metabolic issues, and then also how your heart's responding, what you're weighing in at with your lean mass. It's going to start understanding how to tweak what you're doing to optimize the outcomes you're seeking, right?
Absolutely.
And professionals like you using those tools, and these tools are going to become very mainstream. I mean, we see aspects of them right now. You know, with your Apple Watch, it tells you if you're an AFib, or it tells you what your sleep experience is, or what have you. But that's just the tip of what some of these folks were alluding to. So that's a good question. Next. Yeah.
I have a question
Yeah.
for a fellow panelist. So we're talking about ChatGPT. I'm obsessed. And I think that what's interesting is that a lot of people who do it, when I watch them, they treat it like Google.
Yeah, it's not
like,
Google.
you know, which is very, very different. So I'm going to ask Mike, how would you, or where would you send somebody to learn more about how to appropriately learn how to speak to AI and ask the right questions, the right prompts?
I don't know where I would send them because there's tons of online courses and tons of online opportunity. I do think there's a lot of great things to just, if you're not familiar with prompt engineering, how you ask that question. What you get back is how you ask it, right? Like you may not know that if you actually say, if you're not setting up a new little tab for it, you don't tell it not to take into account everything you've asked it previously, it's using some of that information, right? If you're not telling it who it is, meaning you are a research scientist with 15 years of experience in media, then you're going to get a very different result, right? And by the time you go through and tell it all it is, you're not even asking the question until midway through. And then before you ask that question, ask it if it has any questions. By the time you go through and do all that and ask the question, you will get a very different response. I've built models where I've broken it because I've done stuff in healthcare where you're dealing with CPT codes and all this crazy stuff. And I've been able to get it to the point where it can give me dollar amount CPT codes. How would I use this if I'm trying to deal with healthcare type stuff that's very complicated, and it does really well, but not until I got it to that point. It took me like 10 minutes to even get to the point of asking the actual question.
Yeah, I think there's a couple people online I follow that are very credible that you could consume content on. I know Ted Vicky just published his book, with ChatGPT prompts for that. I think it's a personal journey of you have to retrain your mind on how to think about using the tool, to your point, right?
Yeah, totally agree. I think it's something we could all
It also
learn.
depends on which model you're asking, right?
Yep.
Because for one is very different.
Yeah.
Right?
Perplexity also includes live SEO access with the AI, so there's all kind of different ones. Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe another question too is like, well, what happens for consumers? Does AI become like Google, right? Where they could mislead themselves and be doing things that they shouldn't be doing. I think the key difference with AI is that it's learning along the way, right? They've fundamentally different business models. So Google gets paid in a simplistic way on advertising revenue, where AI is getting smarter and smarter and smarter with vast amounts of data, right? And so it will be far more effective in prescribing accurate and appropriate fitness than, without a doubt, anything that looks like a search engine.
Yeah, the thing I've been saying for a number of years is that in today's world, knowledge is not as important as asking better questions. So you have to start thinking about asking better questions, and that means almost dispensing with some of your knowledge to use the tool. Because when you bring what you know to the table and using the tool, you're almost blinding yourself to the tool's capabilities. So, all right, next question. Go ahead, please, you first, and then you next. Go ahead.
I was wondering what your recommendations would be in terms of creating downloadable content that's just like you said, like passively, that you're generating revenue from. But it sounds like with AI developing, that the value for that is going to decrease over time. So, like, how do you get ahead of the curve?
Jeffrey, you're probably better for that.
Well, I mean, we're not there yet, so I think that what you could do today is create some of your own personal content. Again, Stan Store is my favorite. It's super easy to use. You can upload video. You can do so much there and sell your product. You pay $30 a month, and anything you make over that is just gross revenue for you.
Icing on the cake.
Yeah, I mean, so you can do whatever formats you specialize in. And I think that one thing that would be good too is niche down. Like when it comes to fitness, it's such a broad, there's so many different things you can do. But if you specialize like in Pilates or strength training or whatever your specialty might be, and therefore that would also influence your marketing or how you present yourself on that page. Does that make sense? So if you're a Pilates expert, your post should be generally around Pilates and what it can do for you, and then that will drive people to your content, and hopefully they'll buy your classes that you actually have available. Does that make sense?
I was going to ask one thing to this. So if you were to become an acquaintance of me, you have to consume 30 hours of my content. That's the number. Your best friend is 300 hours. So if you're looking at it from a product perspective, that's one thing. If you're looking at it from a personal brand perspective, that's another thing. The one thing that everybody here has that you're all gonna win on, and I love saying this statement to everybody, is fitness is a commodity, your story's not, which is the same thing as your brand and you. But you have 30 hours of content out there right now to turn somebody just into an acquaintance. You gotta answer that question in my opinion.
It's good
And I just want to add that it's still you that they're showing up for, because there's so many places they can get fitness, whether it's digital or brick and mortar or whatever it is, but they're still going to show up for you. So you have to, like you say, draw people in with whatever it is that you're offering.
Yeah, specialize.
Okay, so going off of the specialization, so I've been in trainers for 22 years, Pilates and yoga for 16, and actually haven't, personally I haven't been able to even use social media, basically because of the people that I work for, but now I can because things start to open up. So my question would be how, because I've always had that struggle, because I've got people that love me for my training, and then there's people that love me for Pilates, people that love me for my yoga, and it's very separate, so then and here I am 22 years later, getting, and I feel like I'm so behind, but again, sort of the status that I was in did not allow me to post, but now I can. So what would you recommend for somebody like myself who's A, so far behind, and then B, has those 3 specialties?
I'll take it, I just want to make a comment. So first, you should think about it as you're actually not far behind, because you've built a community within these modalities. Right, so if anything, you're ahead from a perspective of once you get online, you can bring those people with you. So I think you should it's really important to reframe it, and especially, even I think it relates to your comment as well, of if you can't be worried about AI stealing your jobs, right? Learn how to use the tools so that you can grow with it, but get out there and figure out how to build these connection pieces with your community, or jump into a community, right? Technology and social media has now offered a place where if you want to get in on the conversation around something and you're following the experts who are speaking about it, start commenting, right? Get into the conversation, dive in, and you can build a community within that community. Or now going back to your question, just start to put yourself out there, and the people who've already been taking your classes, let them know that you're out there. Ask them to follow you. Ask them to take something. You're not going to get what you don't ask for, right? So I think that's step one in terms of just building your online business.
There's a thing called content market fit, just like there's product market fit, and product market fit is in a straight line, right? So you learn just as much by what you fail it doesn't work. And that is true actually. If you actually were going to talk to somebody about going out and building an online community, you actually should comment within other domains you want to be a part of for the first 60 days, they say. So just keep that in mind, that it's content market fit. You're not going to find it. Some people don't find it for a year or two.
So find your customers online, right? Start follow all of them. Start to engage with them online. They're going to start to see your stuff more often, and then it's going to build.
Yeah, and also, go out there and find people that are doing what you think you're going to want to do, and learn what they're doing. It's another thing. Copying other people and what they've accomplished is not a bad idea. And to the point here in today's world, you can iterate very quickly. You're never behind. I mean, you can always leapfrog, because the friction to do it is lowest it's ever been. It's lowest it's ever been. So it's never too late. It's never too late. All right, great question. Who's next? Please.
So just to kind of continue with what you were saying, we still have non-competes, and so I'm hearing that a lot of personal training and group fitness, we can't do that. We can't tell our members to join us on our platforms. So is there going to be a shift away from non-competes? Is that kind of where we're going, or is it more of a situation where trainers and instructors now are going to see this as an opportunity for them to make their own money? They're going to move away from brick and mortar, and we're going to kind of die.
So that's a good question.
Not in Virginia.
Yeah. Well, you're going to see that change. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say that I still try to teach one in-person class just because I love it. I can't stop doing it. It's like my drug. But there was once upon a time, there was you're not allowed to tell anybody that you're doing this. And so you don't. They'll find you. I mean, that's the thing. It's like a whole pack of us were told, some of us might be in this room, we're told, we don't care if you do this, we don't care if you do this digital thing, but you cannot solicit our client base. And so you don't. You just do it. And you're not the only person on a social platform. And so they'll find you, and then they can participate. I'm not trying to take any business away from any of there were some companies that didn't want to do any kind of hybrid. They wanted it to be one or the other. And so I don't think you need to solicit the people you're teaching in person to build an online community.
Yeah, and I'd like to comment personally on
It's completely
this.
separate.
Yeah,
And then those people may or may not find you, but you will find your people online.
Anybody that is a business today, because you can address this in a mutual way, in many different forms. And the reality is you have to address it in a different way. Because if you're a club owner, and I own a chain of clubs, so I've operated clubs, so this would never even cross my mind. What you want to do is get a group of professionals that want to create content and figure out how to rev share that.
It helps the brick and mortar, because people will people from online will drive,
That's right.
I think, way too far to come to my class.
Yeah.
It's because I've built this community online, so they're like, oh, I can come see
That's
you
right.
in person.
Yeah. What do you think, Mike? You have any thoughts?
I was just gonna say, legally it's changing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and the non-competes, so it's a moot point.
Yeah, we'd really.
Probably a little while, but
Yep.
that's something happening in the macro.
Yeah, and it's crazy not to figure out a way to make that work for both sides, because you're missing opportunity for everybody when you think like that. So.
An old friend of ours has a very fantastic, thriving online fitness business, and people will fly across the country. It's like their own retreat to come and take her class in person now.
It's a great question, though. Good question. That's a real world question. Who's next? Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Lisa?
Hey, what do you want to know?
So I'm not a trainer myself. I'm the director of a fitness program at a luxury wellness resort. And so we're seeing a big shift with our Forbes standards. We're a Forbes-rated property of how you're enhancing someone's stay with wellness, the technology that you're offering. So we have a robust program for a resort that's about 106 classes a week. And so we offer, we have, the Pelotons and fitness mirrors and stuff, some of that digital component, but I find there's not a platform that allows me to customize that where it's promoting my team as opposed to giving them an option to not utilize my team of instructors. And so they're hesitant to even promote it because they feel it takes away from them as well. So are you aware of any platforms that are coming that would allow us to maybe create content with our team but still offer that digital component to our guests, or it's going to continue to be, Mirror has their team, Peloton has their team, and that's just kind of their option in that world?
I can answer, but only if you give one night free at whatever resort.
Opportunist.
One night.
Actually, that was a pretty modest request. Yeah, I think there are a variety of hardware systems out there that will allow you to do that if you want to. I mean, you still have to create the content.
Right, which we're capable of doing. It just, I haven't found a platform that then I can add, I put the mirror in a bunch of our wellness rooms, and and then you're still promoting our team and what we offer, so it enhances instead of takes away from.
Yeah, I mean, somebody mentioned this earlier. It's kind of like, you've got to have kind of a balance of both, because you're going to have guests that are specifically looking for resorts that have a Peloton, so they can log in and log their ride, right? And so it's like, and I was thinking with someone, I think it was Jeff or maybe it was Eric earlier, that's, if we step out of fitness, that's like the case in almost every industry other than fitness, right? It's like, you go to Target, you don't have just cashiers, or you don't have just automated checkout. You got to have that right balance to truly be best in class. There's platforms like Wexer out there, which you could plug into your group fitness studio and provide your own content digitally, so that guests can access that any time of the day.
And via app as well.
And the mobile app as well. So especially, that's a great point, Brian. Especially in a hospitality environment. Oftentimes you're there as a guest, right, to enjoy your stay, to, enjoy the property and its amenities. Maybe you have outdoors areas that you want to tap into. That's really interesting. You know, in hotel, I've worked with a couple of the larger hotel brands, Marriott being one of them, and you see a shift away from in-room. So you remember, like back in the day, everything was about movies on pay-per-view, right? You'd have to type in your credit card or they charge your bill or whatever.
Remember that?
Now it's all on your device, right? Because you can just pick up, like you're watching Game of Thrones, it knows you're on episode 9, bang, you're there, right? And so mobile apps, as you pointed out, are a great way to actually extend the offering beyond just the physical fitness.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting to me about that is wellness and fitness extends its offering into other channels, like now the expectation of fitness. I know in hotels 10 years ago, it was terrible generally, even in nice hotels, right? And the expectation level's going on and going up. But the reality is if you have a special brand, you know, it's a business decision. But more and more, you want to create and curate experiences that are aligned completely with your brand and branded in a way that supports you and extends to the user experience in a way that's differentiated. And as content has been commoditized, I think the importance of brands like yours and others to create their own branded content is going up because it is a point of differentiation. So I think, and there are platforms. Wex is one, but there are others. So they're out there. Okay.
Just a quick
Yeah.
plug, and I have to apologize
Yeah.
for the selfish plug here.
Yeah.
But-
Swerve, yeah, I'm sorry. Swerve, of course.
But this was an evolution. Like
Yeah.
we started off of just streaming cycling,
Yeah,
Swerve
yeah.
cycling
Yeah.
only. Then we started to get requests for other modalities.
Yeah.
So we struck a partnership. Now we do 6 different modalities.
Right.
Then we start to get trainers saying, "Oh, I want to be able to teach those modalities." We offer training programs for all of those modalities, so
Yeah.
there's now consistency with what trainers teach and what we can stream digitally. Plus, we have a production studio where if you want to do your own content, we can do all of that for you, and it could be your brand. So, sorry, had to.
No, that's good. No, it's a good point. I'm sorry I didn't bring that up. Thank you.
Kudos to you for running a program over 100 classes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a
There are
lot.
several people in the room who know
Yeah.
how hard
Yeah,
that
that's
is,
hard.
and
Yeah.
And
Kudos
especially the
to you.
resort too, where your clientele changes.
Yeah.
All your hair, you
So we
look
have
well
a
rested.
membership,
Yeah.
And so I have both with members that are local and then hotel guests, and then within the spa, you get access to the fitness
I have
program.
a question.
Yes.
Can you tell us which resort it is?
Yes, it's Rancho Valencia
Yeah.
Resort and Spa in
Yeah.
San Diego.
Yeah.
Oh.
Great property.
Come see it.
Yeah, very nice property. Yes, sir.
So hi, my name is Ali, and it's a follow-on question to Lisa's, right? Also a little bit of a shameless plug. So a little bit of context, we're an AI company. We provide a AI-driven, computer vision-driven virtual personal trainer to augment content and to augment existing apps. We're not direct to consumer, we only go through third-party brands and we support, trainers building their own content. We train our AI on it, make it available to end users, white label the entire offering all the way from, Chris Hemsworth's Center app down to, hotels. So enough talk. Real question is, how do we get in front of trainers and the industry overall? Because we're viewed as a technology product, right? Even when we talk to Chris's teams, he basically told us to go talk to the CTO, and the CTO was like, yeah, we've seen this, we can do this ourselves. But that's not who we want to talk to. We want to talk to the business. We want to talk to people who have a connection with their trainees, if you will, right?
Yeah. Well, the problem with that is the state of the industry today.
Indeed.
The industry, like a lot of industries, in fairness, they have not figured out how to really conduct digital transformation. So their silos are matching an era that's no longer here. Just like Mike said, you're either going to be a company that's using AI or you're not. In our world today, it still remains that it's very fractionalized and siloed. You don't even have chief digital officers in most of the leading organizations in the fitness space, even big ones in many cases. So anyway, what are your thoughts? That's my thought. I may be wrong, but go ahead. What do you think?
Just meet Jeffrey or Deb. Introduce you to everybody.
Yeah.
Honestly, showing up at these conferences are key. That's what we like when we made that transition from boutique to like the big box world. Anybody who I spoke to was like, you have to show up at these conferences and you have to come consistently. People need to see you multiple times, and here's where you're going to build a relationship. So, yeah. Go meet everybody at the expo as well.
Yes.
Talk around, like go just.
Yeah, but also be realistic about some things, and I'm going to be pretty controversial here. One of the problems that we have in the space as well, we have a lot of longtime players that have created moat strategies. And what that means is, for example, when you have a specific application you're trying to deliver to customers, one of the things that's going to come up is, how do I interface with your member management system? And then you're going to deal with a nightmare, okay? And those member management systems have purposefully, and then in fairness to them, there's also the cost of doing the APIs and everything else that you have to do. So it's a complex sale. It's an enterprise sale because you have all these different touch points, and it's in general very frustrating. You know, having started a number of companies in tech in the realm myself, I've dealt with these things, and it should be easier than it is, but it just isn't.
Yeah. And market segmentation will serve you really well as well. You know, I was just previously a few months ago at Exponential Fitness, which is a publicly traded boutique, and I would get computer vision called on all the time. We had 10, 11 brands at the time that were built on entertainment, right? And so people really didn't care about their form or counting reps, or it wasn't core to the experience. Now, if you take something like CrossFit or other forms of exercise that are very technical in nature, you probably will get a lot more reception there than in certain other parts of the industry.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm an advisor to a couple computer vision companies, and a lot of them pivot. If they go to fitness, a lot of them go to healthcare and sports.
That's right.
Yep. And that's the truth of the situation.
Because it's just, it's easier. It's not as hard, let's say that.
And there's more money.
Yeah, and there's more money, that's true.
Sorry, you're saying there's more money and it's easier in healthcare?
It can be, and in vertical, but obviously there's more money in healthcare.
MSK.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sword Health.
Yeah.
$3.4 billion valuation.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, we exchanged messages on Sure.
Now you know why he's here, sitting in the front row.
That's right.
Yes, sir. What's your name?
Ahmed, I just want to say, good to be sitting on the same table as you. I was working on the same thing last year. So gamifying workouts using computer vision, direct to consumer though. That worked like fairly well. We had a lot of competitions going on, but again, we pivoted away from that into nutrition.
Yep.
So now we're an AI nutrition coach, but just glad that we worked on the same problem.
Yeah. One of my companies, Vertimax, we were just launched last week using a Sensei's platform, a very targeted tool for sports performance. It's very targeted. How your jump form, your this, your that, you're very targeted. So I think the niche verticals are better opportunities. Next question. We're doing so well with these questions. Y'all really made notes during the talk. I love it.
I do, but it's not about, the digital world. I deal with population. I'm a gym owner, boutique size, 2,500 square feet. My question is, where you think the fitness or the population is leaning towards? I see a lot of new types of gyms coming along, like Moonta Fitness or, a lot of circuits. But at the same time, I saw F45 and I'm like, okay, maybe perhaps circuits is not the way to go anymore. I worked for a hit by LAF. It's similar to Orange Theory, but I saw they're hit by LAF. It's not kicking off. So I'm like, Orange Theory is still there. So does the population want to go towards the circuit style more, like the CAP, or towards the MyZone type of heart rate monitor, like Orange Theory? What do you think the population is leaning towards?
Right now, it's strength. Strength has been skewing heavily right now, and especially plate loaded. I mean, the old school strength training is in vogue. Now, that doesn't mean high intensity training goes away. It doesn't mean other, but as far as trends, that's the trend right now. But what do you all think?
My first thing I would say is, have you taken a survey to ask what your consumer wants? Because I worked for Equinox for 20 years, and we had clubs every 2 blocks in New York City. And the programming in each one of those blocks were different because of the neighborhood that it was in. So if I was in Greenwich Village, my programming for that particular club was very different than the Upper East Side. So it really depends on your location and your consumer. So a lot of that, you might want to do a survey.
That's a very good point.
What do you think happened to F45?
What do you mean when you say what happened to him?
That's a loaded question.
Well, first off, let's talk very frankly. Number one, what has happened in the last 10 years is people are franchising way too rapidly without proven business models, driving cost up for their franchisees to open those models, and it's a business issue. Now, kudos to F45 for creating a more automated system where a singular coach or coaches could train multiple people in a systematic way at scale. Kudos for them like that. But what happened to them is really a bunch of different dynamics. Largely, they grew too fast in an undisciplined way. That's my thought, but you may disagree. What do you think, Mike and Garrett?
Well, I'm not going to talk about F-45 because you just hit that one. But I think as a world, we're going from this sort of look good to feel good society, sort of umbrella, and strength is a key part of longevity, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a growth sector we're just at the beginning stages of, right? And so that's what I would say at the highest level. I don't know what's going to happen with the hit models, studio models, the niche models. I don't know how big that consumer base is anymore, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, with respect to F-45, I think that was probably more of a bad mix of business dynamics, more so than consumers just deciding that they don't like certain training anymore. I think everybody's
I think that's true. And earlier, you have to think about, I think your point's right on. Every modality is workable. It's about what kind of user experience you want to deliver to the community that you're identifying as your population base and designing your business around that, and then looking at the economics behind that delivery system. And that's going to lead to success or failure in the end. So it's a lot of different components. I hope that was something. It was a big question you asked, so hard to get. We could write a book on the subject. So, all right, come on, one more question or two. Yes, sir, please, what's your name?
Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
In terms of social media, we got one of the panelists mentioned perceived value and offering that before you request for action from your audience. How much value is too much value? Because I'm scared I'm putting too much out, and if I put too much out, I'm going to ask for a high return. And I'm just trying to gauge what's too much.
My favorite statement is, value is what you get, price is what you pay. So I'd have to ask, what's the price? Because value is what you get, price is what you pay. You're not going to pay more than the value you get, right? It's kind of like supply and demand.
I don't think we as providers in the industry get to make that choice. I think it's going to be driven by consumers. Maybe like today, I'm sure there were a lot of record labels that thought MP3s from incredible bands, were worth more than 99 cents. But the reality is going to be decided by consumers. So personally, I would look, and you likely already have, and most of us have, is what is being provided today and at what price point, and how can I be competitive? And somebody touched on this earlier. There's a spectrum of different ways to provide that value at different price points that should be designed to do different things strategically. Right? Don't give away you don't want to give away your premium at a free cost, right? You want to give away something, and if it serves the purpose of lead generation, the goal is to work that customer down the funnel, right? So that's the way I'd look at it. I would look at it from the bottom up and take an audit of what's already out there today.
What kind of business is it, Jason? What do you?
It's just online coaching.
Yep.
And I'm just been brainstorming on what people want and then how to scale the value, how to price that. So it's very early stages. I've been stuck on that as far as where to price it, what people want, and then not giving too much for too little and stuff.
Yeah.
I want to cheat myself.
Yeah. Well, what I think we'd all agree with in general is, to a lot of your points before, if you don't have a significant social content presence that is relatable, with the tips that have been shared and how people sense that you're being personal about it, that you're not picking or you're not being focused on a niche that you have less competitors in, and you can really focus on that niche. And then looking at a couple basic things, what they are. Number one is CAC. Once you get into these dynamics, you define the market, what are you trying to do, and then look at your customer acquisition cost. These are things you can figure out. And then you look at what content do I have to give away, what problem am I trying to solve, what is my CAC, and then what is the model on the back end. That's what he's pointing out on the funnel. And you're really talking about an e-commerce business. And those are the basic table stakes right there. And then marketing and remarketing those communities when you grow them and figuring out how to monetize them. You're not going to figure it all out before you launch it. In early days, you have to iterate a lot. And it's very competitive, but there are a lot of people out there. All you need is 1,000, an audience of 1,000, and you can, you can monetize that in
I would
lieu.
also say you could offer different things, like, like you were saying, some people want to spend $20, some people want to spend $75, so you can offer different things at different levels, like different pieces. You can offer an online coaching session for a lot more money than you can offer something that's pre-recorded that someone can just click on.
Yeah.
I know a yoga teacher who literally has created her own app for it, and she offers different levels. She offers like you can attend all my live classes for a price. You can have access to just my library for a price. You can just do one class for a price. So there's like something for every person. Everyone that feels differently about how they want to spend their money. And she has, I think, only about 400 to 500 people on there, but they're all paying from $35 up monthly.
Oh, subscription? Oh, there you
Right?
go. That's the key.
Yeah, and she's not mad at it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. Not
No.
anywhere near 1,000, but real loyal people.
Yeah. All right, let's have one final question. Anybody want to take the last slice of cake? Yes, please.
Going off of that, what would you guys recommend between like your in-training rate and your online rate? Like, I don't know if you do like in-training, but like what would the price what would you guys recommend?
Just what the market will bear, I think.
Yeah, well, people are willing to pay.
Is my in-person, personal training rate, but then the client is traveling and they want to do online. Like, I don't feel like I can take $100 for online. I just don't. But that's just me. I feel like I should do that.
Some of that's going to be a function of the specialization of the service you're providing. The more niche, probably the higher price. But any other feedback on that?
You got to believe in yourself more. I think that, your value is your value. And I understand reducing the price slightly because it's not in person. But again, if you are providing, it depends what you're providing too, right? So are you doing a weekly accountability call? Like, are you doing weekly schedules and helping them progress through? Like that requires a lot of work. That's value. You're giving a lot of value. So it's just really what anyone's willing to pay. So I wouldn't drop it down too low. I would maybe come down a little bit than a live session, but and see how it goes, right? A lot of it's testing as you go. Course correct, that didn't work. I've been trying this is working, let's continue with that. Give it a shot, but know your value, and I wouldn't go too low.
Let me add a distinction too. I think it's important to keep in mind when we're thinking about all things online and digital. The customer that you serve in person and how you charge them, very, very different from the customer that your friends in Honduras that you're streaming content to, right? People that completely different types of customers, and it's likely that online represents, it's a retention strategy for existing clients, but it's not going to grow your business, right? Because you've already got those customers captured, you want to keep them happy. Online, it's all incremental growth. And if you want to grow your business using online, I will say, I don't know what the magic answer is for content, because there's a lot of different types of content out there, but there is a dynamic, and this goes back to Jason's question too, of not just in fitness, but this is being led by software as a service applications, social media, all these things. This value before fee and cost going down. So if I was a Fit Pro in your position, I would try to get as close to free as possible on the customer acquisition side.
Yeah.
And the reason I would do that is because of what everybody else up here has said today. There's so much online content. If you listen, the one real calculus that separates a piece of content from another one is you, right? And so, like Bryan said, with 1,000 people, once you get people introduced to you, if you're likable, then you don't have to work as hard because they're going to naturally want to support you, right? So my strategy would be open yourself up online as much as you possibly can. Specialization, yes, of course, but I would try to, I wouldn't look at that and be defensive on pricing. I would just look at it and go, how do I get in front of expose as many people as possible to me so that they're going to want to become customers and, through potentially a number of different revenue streams. That's just my take.
Great answer. Hey, let's give a round of applause for the lovely panel here. Great event. Thank you all for being here. I hope you found it interesting and beneficial. Hello, listeners. This is Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks so much for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. The podcast is made possible by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, a consortium of global brands working together to enhance the adoption of technologies in the fitness space. Our company, Videri Ventures, which is invested in Vertimax, Montezuma, Gold's Gym Houston, Texas, and Fitness 24/7 Thailand, also underwrites the podcast, along with our service companies, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and others. Please feel free to share this podcast with your colleagues. And if I can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out, brianko'rourke@gmail.com, or find me on any of the major social networks. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.